Hey all, welcome back to ShareTreck, and today we're going to talk about one AI company which should be on your radar. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back, friendos, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. Happy you're here. And I'm excited to discuss today's latest earnings from one of my favorite companies, AMD, Dizzle, a company that demonstrated strong growth potential, particularly in AI and enterprise sectors. Now, I believe that AI could be a very, very intriguing investment opportunity if this bull market continues, or if we end up getting a bull market after a little bit of a dip. But first of all, let's go through some of the key points in their Q2 2024 earnings call and quarterly report and see if this is going to be a promising addition to all of our portfolios, or see if it's a little too overhyped. First of all, AMD, they reported earnings just this past week, the same day as Microsoft, by the way. And AMD reported a very robust, great financial performance. They had a beat on revenue, where the expectation of 5.73, they got 5.8, very nice. They just had a nice small beat on their quarterly EPS, 68 expected, 69 is what they got. Year-over-year growth, 9%. Quarter-over-quarter growth, 7%. And if those numbers seem a little wacky, it's because they're comparing to like the prior year, and then we got AI revenue. With companies like this, because AI is very new, I like to look at quarter over year, because you're comparing to not an AI year sometimes. Anyway, their forecast, this is what they expect for the following 3 months report. The expectation of 6.62 billion, they're expecting significantly higher, 6.7, which is good. And their forecasted margin is actually a little lower. The Wall Street expectation 53.8, they're actually thinking 53.5, not too bad. They're forecasting, however, 16% year-over-year growth and 15% quarter-over-quarter growth. And that's pretty big growth, since they're going from single digits to double digits. Quite a significant, strong movement, and that's showing a lot of good momentum. Anyway, AMD projected earnings numbers, very good. Now, I like to talk a lot about margins, so I am going to jump into the very exciting stuff now and towards the end. First of all, AMD does have the crazy margins that NVIDIA does, where NVIDIA brings in a net margin of about 55%, and AMD's net margin is a little bit lower, about 22.5%, which is about half of NVIDIA, but their gross margin, very, very nice, about 30, almost 40%. Still great. Actually, in some ways, margin looks pretty much more enticing in AMD, but I'll get more into that later. Their current quarter, they're expecting about a 5% move and 20% to the annual margin. And just very nice. What I'd like to hear about this company is the company is skyrocketing. We talked a lot about the H100 chips for NVIDIA, which brought them a lot of revenue and a lot of bullish momentum on that Wall Street stock chart, and a lot of potential in that Blackwell chip. AMD is really excited about their current MI300 chip. MI300 is their version of the H100, their enterprise AI chip. And they're announcing a MI325 chip later on this year, and next year the MI350 chip. And they say that revenues for that will come in for about next year. Actually, Microsoft is buying a bunch of these MI chips, MI300s, and going to be buying those 350s when they come out. I think this is going to be a great catalyst for the Q1 and the Q2 earnings report for 2025. AMD is doing what NVIDIA is doing, and that's good. They're copying the best. Moreover, the MI300 chip. It's kind of like the H100 for NVIDIA, and MI300 generative AI for computing and cloud computing. Now, there was a lot of questions in AI, which we will definitely get into, but I want to expand a little bit further on those MI300 chips. Much like NVIDIA, where NVIDIA is coming out with a new chip, a new great chip, which these enterprise companies have to buy each and every year. AMD is doing the same with their 325 and 350. 350, Lisa Su, the CEO, says this is supposed to be competing with the Blackwell chip. Amazon bought a slew of those Blackwell chips. So did companies like Tesla, Microsoft, so on. This MI 350, if it's going to compete with that, that could be really good for the AI sector. And that could be really good for prices and for inflation if we get more competitors and more people buying some of these chips. But just to throw a few numbers at you, I went in and found a little bit of the costs and margins for these things. So AMD is set to ship 400,000 roughly MI300 chips, and each of these cost 20,000 US dollars. And I read that Wall Street shows that these MI300 chips cost about $12,000 to make. And this represents about a 60% markup on their margin. Think 60% markup. Now, NVIDIA's H100s, they're going about 80 to 120% markup, depending on what time it is and who's trying to buy. But if we do a little bit of math, 400,000 MI300 chips, which are selling for 20,000 each, that's $8 billion of revenue. Of that, 60% is the markup due to demand, due to the demand for AI chips, which keeps on going up, which AMD is very bullish on because there is no shortage of demand in AI. So this 60% markup represents $4.8 billion of just excess revenue because of short supplies. If the supplies were to kind of catch up and these were to come down, that $4.8 billion of revenue, it's only about 2.23% of AMD's entire market cap. And that isn't that bad. So if we were to reach an equilibrium, I think that AMD could still make up with volumes. So even if decline were to come, AMD is still well positioned. Comparing to NVIDIA, however, AMD, although it has very good margins, NVIDIA has much more revenue and much more cash. So it's not the NVIDIA, but it's a great alternative. And I'm going to get into why I think it's going to be a good addition to many people's portfolios. Going more so into the earnings call, AMD said they see strong demand in hyperscalers, and Microsoft is expanding to use the AMD M1 M300 chips to power their GPT Turbo, which is contributing over $1 billion in revenue. MI300 chips are now publicly available, so anyone can go out there and buy them. So if you got $20,000 out there, maybe you want one of these cool AI chips that Meta and Microsoft and Amazon and Tesla are buying. Great demand in enterprise and cloud sectors, showing great growth. They're saying that they got partnerships with Dell, Lenovo, Supermicro computers, and these are bolstering their market performance. These partnerships with some of these are really helping get the demand and the supplies in balance and well for enterprise sectors. Significant process in their software stack, which includes open source collaborations with these companies, LAMA. I'm not too sure what that is, but it helps run the MI300 chips, and that makes me happy. AI chip revenue for 2024 reached 4.5 billion, which is up from 4 billion the prior quarter. AMD is committed to launching new products, their MI3 325 and the 350, and they are investing more. Their R&D investments are actually set to increase. And that is because higher revenue, they're able to leverage their OpEx spending. Significant process is being made to ramp up their supply, and they don't see the supply chain coming, and they don't see that tightening happen, that decline, and that they basically don't see the equilibrium happening until at least 2025. So they could get the absorbent margins for just maybe at least a year or so longer, what I gather from their earnings call. Gaming sector, although it is down double digits, they think the growth in processor segments is going to make up for that. So one segment down, such as gaming, they got other sectors, especially AI, cloud, and processors, which are making up for that. Their supercomputer segment, they say, is contributing significantly to this current quarter and is growing a lot since Q4 the prior year. They're continuing to invest in software. They're acquiring this company called Silo, which is being used to enhance their AMD hardware and allowing customers to run it better. There's strong emphasis on AI and computing, and they think that AMD looks it's well positioned for the future. Getting into the earnings call, there are a few very, very eye-opening things that I came across when I was listening to the CEO, Lisa Su. So Lisa Su was asked what Google CEO Sundar was asked, which is, when do you see this decline in AI happening? Her response was, she doesn't see the decline happening because people and companies want to invest in AI because they have to invest in AI, and they do not want to be left behind and lose operational efficiency. Wow. That made me think, actually. It kind of made me draw comparisons in my head of, hey, everyone out there does not probably want to buy engine cars, but you can't hope that the horse and carriage is going to carry on to the future. Some ways, at least Lisa Su thinks, companies have to invest in AI. They have to do this. AI is still new, but Lisa Su doesn't see demand dropping anytime soon. In fact, Microsoft Azure saw growth in AI. Saw growth in Microsoft Azure saw almost 30% growth in AI demand. So this is still bullish. And she did dodge the question a little bit about talking with the Blackwell chip, which is NVIDIA's flagship chip. But she said she's still happy to launch the MI 320 and the MI 350 chip, where although it seems like this is not going to be as powerful as a Blackwell, it's going to be much more affordable, and people are still going to buy it. Microsoft's buying them. All the big enterprise AI companies are buying them. But big question has always been about valuations. NVIDIA, the valuations are a little stretched. How is AMD looking? I'm just going to share a couple of little conclusions I've got over here. AMD currently selling for $132 per share. Its expected end of year EPS 3.41. By the way, if you ever wanted to get these, there's a whole bunch of sources. Simply Wall Street, Yahoo Finance, you got NASDAQ. There's a whole slew of sources. AMD, their forward EPS gives it a PE ratio, which is still a little bit high, but for a tech company, that's not too bad. Their expected EPS growth, as per the Wall Street estimate, is about 31%, but the new estimate with this very bullish earnings that we just got last week, 39% EPS growth. So what you'll see here is they're trading quite cheaply, especially compared to some of their peers, especially compared to companies like NVIDIA, which, if you were to consider how much the stock has grown and how much it is valued, dear goodness, AMD actually looks not too bad. Looks like it's trading a little bit below what the general market is trading at. So in conclusion, AMD's Q2 2024 earnings call, I was impressed. Particularly in that AI and enterprise sector and their product pipeline with those new MI 325 and 350 chips, and there's partnerships with companies like Lenovo, with Dell, with Super Microcomputers, Microsoft. I think, and the fact that they're committed to R&D and they're continually pumping in more money into that OpEx. Given some of these factors, I believe that AMD is a nice company to consider if we continue on with a bull market. However, we're seeing something very intriguing in the markets right now. Something almost fearful, where companies are delivering good earnings and starting to go down a little bit or not move up that much. And companies are delivering poor earnings or slight misses earnings, and they're being punished. Stocks like Intel and ARM, which had some misses, and Intel is announcing some layoffs. They got punished hard, 20% down in a day. I think we are in a somewhat fearful market. Just this past week, Warren Buffett started selling again, sold a heck of a lot of his Bank of America stock. Other fund managers are selling as well. So do I like AMD? I love AMD. AMDizzle. I'm very impressed with this company, and I'm very impressed that they continue to innovate and provide new chips. But right now, I'm a little fearful of the market in general. If we were to enter back into a bull market, maybe after the election, maybe after we get clarity. I'm uncertain when. I wish I had a crystal ball to say, this is when's a good time to buy. But right now, AMD looks good. If you have a long-term outlook, it looks phenomenal. I just don't know when will be the good time to buy, but I think it'll be a good time to buy eventually. What do you all think of AMD? What do you all think of AMD compared to NVIDIA and their 60% markups, which isn't set to drop until 2025? Thank you all for listening to me. If you have some AMD, let us know down in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe, and let us know what you want to cover next. Thank you kindly, and until next time, stay well, friendos.